Since Captain Ibrahim Traoré took power in Burkina Faso, the Western world has, on the surface, spoken with one voice, denouncing his government and pulling back support. But behind the loud condemnations and dramatic headlines, a completely different story is unfolding. It's a story of quiet handshakes, strategic partnerships, and a radical realignment of global power, happening not in the grand halls of the UN, but in the presidential palace in Ouagadougou. These are the secret global powers who aren't cutting ties with Traoré, but are quietly and pragmatically engaging with his government. We're going to expose these relationships, what these nations really want, and what their silent cooperation means for the future of Africa. Because what's happening in Burkina Faso isn't just a local issue. It's a sign of a new era, where African nations are no longer just accepting partners, but actively choosing them. To get what's happening today, you need to understand the backstory. For years, Burkina Faso, like much of the Sahel, was caught in a brutal storm. An endless cycle of instability, a relentless insurgency that devoured lives and territory, and a political class that seemed powerless, or worse, just didn't care. The security situation was spiraling, and hope was running out. International partners, led by the former colonial power France, had been on the ground for years. Their bases and operations were part of the landscape. And yet, for all their resources and promises, the conflict only got worse. This was the world that a young captain named Ibrahim Traoré walked into in September 2022. He didn't just seize power, he seized a moment. He tapped into a deep, burning frustration among the people, a feeling that the old ways and the old partnerships had failed. His language was different. It was direct, unapologetic, and it was all built around one powerful idea: sovereignty. The reaction from the West was swift and predictable. Condemnations flew in from Washington, Paris, and Brussels. The African Union and ECOWAS followed suit, slapping on sanctions and suspending memberships, moves that many across Africa saw as heavily influenced by foreign powers. The United States even froze nearly $160 million in aid, trying to squeeze the new government into submission. The message was clear: get in line or else. But Traoré didn't get in line. He did the exact opposite. In a move that sent diplomatic shockwaves, his government tore up the long-standing military agreement with France, and, in February 2023, ordered all French troops out. He announced that Burkina Faso was looking for new horizons and win-win partnerships. This wasn't just a policy change. It was a declaration of independence. He then started reviewing mining contracts that many felt had enriched foreign companies while leaving the nation with scraps. He talked about taking back control of resources, making sure the wealth of Burkina Faso would finally benefit the people of Burkina Faso. This defiant stand set the stage for everything to come. To the West, he was an illegitimate leader gone rogue. But to many across Africa and the global South, he looked like a hero. It was the spirit of Thomas Sankara, Burkina Faso's revolutionary icon, reborn. Traoré had drawn a line in the sand. He challenged the old order and dared to imagine a different future. And while the West was busy slamming its doors, other nations saw a new door swinging wide open. They saw a chance not just to get a new ally, but to help build a new, multipolar world. And that's where our story really begins. While the Western world was busy with public condemnations, a quiet but powerful shift was happening behind the scenes. A new group of powers, playing by a different set of rules, started engaging with Traoré's government. This wasn't about a shared belief in military rule. It was about cold, hard pragmatism and mutual interest. Over the course of 2024 and 2025, a steady stream of diplomats from countries like Russia, Turkey, India, and Cuba began arriving in Ouagadougou, signaling a clear message: we are open for business. Each of these new relationships tells a unique story about how global power is changing and Africa's new place in it. The most talked about and least understood of these new partnerships is with Russia. In the Western media, it's often painted as a simple, sinister deal, a desperate regime trading its soul for mercenaries. The reality: it's far more strategic. The bond between Ouagadougou and Moscow isn't just about security. It's about a shared rejection of a world dominated by the West. Of course, security is the most visible piece. When French troops left, there was a vacuum. Traoré needed a partner who could supply the military hardware to fight a brutal insurgency. And Russia, free from colonial baggage and human rights conditions, was ready and willing. Credible reports suggest that in January 2024, Russian military personnel, including elements of the Afrika Korps, the successor to the Wagner Group, arrived in the country. From Traoré's point of view, he needed results that a decade of French presence hadn't delivered. Russia offered a more direct path. But this partnership is about much more than just guns. In late 2023, Russia reopened its embassy in Ouagadougou after a 30-year absence, a huge symbolic gesture. High-level meetings between officials have become common, solidifying a coordinated strategy to fight terrorism. The economic and humanitarian ties are just as important. In January 2024, Russia shipped 25,000 tons of wheat to Burkina Faso for free. For a country dealing with food shortages, this aid is a lifeline, delivered without the political strings often attached to Western help. Russian companies are also eyeing Burkina Faso's rich deposits of gold, manganese, and zinc. And now, they've moved into a new frontier: nuclear energy. In June 2025, Russia's state atomic energy corporation, Rosatom, signed an agreement to help Burkina Faso build nuclear power infrastructure. This is a revolutionary idea for a nation where only about 1 in 5 people have electricity, promising to bring Russian tech into medicine and agriculture, and to train a new generation of Burkinabe nuclear specialists. For Russia, the win is obvious. It gets a strategic foothold in the Sahel, challenges Western influence, and secures access to resources. For Burkina Faso, it's a partnership that delivers security, aid, and technology on its own terms. Another major power-making move is Turkey. Ankara's playbook is different from Moscow's. While Russia leads with hard security, Turkey offers a sophisticated mix of military tech, economic investment, and cultural soft power. The star of the show is technology, specifically the world-famous Bayraktar TB2 drones. These drones are a game-changer for a military fighting insurgents across vast terrain, offering a critical edge in surveillance and strikes. The recent delivery of the even more advanced Akinci drones shows this partnership is only getting deeper. Traoré has called Turkey a major ally, and in 2023, his government awarded its highest state medal to the head of a Turkish defense company, a very public thank you. But Turkey's strategy is about more than just selling weapons. It's about building deep economic ties. Ankara opened its embassy in Ouagadougou back in 2012, laying the foundation for today's relationship. Turkish companies are now major players in infrastructure across Africa. High-level meetings in 2025 focused on boosting collaboration in trade, energy, mining, and agriculture. This all serves Ankara's larger geopolitical goals. President Erdogan has positioned Turkey as a major Afro-Eurasian power and a leader in the Muslim world. By partnering with Sahelian states, Turkey expands its influence, outmaneuvers rivals like France, and opens up new markets for its defense and construction industries. For Burkina Faso, Turkey isn't just an arms dealer. It's a comprehensive partner offering a path to modernization that respects its sovereignty. While Russia handles security and Turkey acts as a geo-economic broker, you can't talk about global partnerships without mentioning the elephant in the room: China. Beijing's play in Africa is often oversimplified as debt-trap diplomacy. But for countries like Burkina Faso, China offers something incredibly appealing: massive economic development with a stated policy of non-interference. Under Traoré, relations with China are heating up. There are reports of a potential multi-billion-dollar economic cooperation agreement in the works. While details are still emerging, the rumored focus is revolutionary, not just extracting resources, but building a manufacturing economy. The plan reportedly includes constructing new factories to process local goods like cotton and cashews into finished products for export. This fits perfectly with Traoré's vision of making Burkina Faso an exporter of value, not just raw materials. This potential deal is classic China. While others focus on today's security crisis, China is investing in the economic foundation for tomorrow's stability. It's also stepping up as an alternative arms supplier, offering another option for military gear without political lectures. So what's in it for China? First, resources. Burkina Faso has the gold, zinc, and other minerals that China's massive economy needs. Second, by helping build up Africa's industrial base, China is creating future customers for its own products. And third, every successful partnership in Africa is a diplomatic win for Beijing in its great power rivalry with the US. For Traoré's government, China represents a powerful engine for economic sovereignty. The promise of Chinese investment and technology, all delivered without judgment, is an offer that's almost impossible to pass up. Beyond the Big Three, a fascinating and diverse group of other nations is also stepping up. This coalition, including countries like India, Cuba, Bangladesh, and even Luxembourg, shows just how deep the new multipolar world really is. India's engagement is all about its ambition to be a leading voice for the Global South. Its relationship with Burkina Faso is built on decades of friendly ties, but it's now picking up speed. Cooperation is focused on practical areas where India shines: technical training, agriculture, and IT. Through its ITC program, India has trained hundreds of Burkinabe professionals. Economically, India is a major buyer of Burkinabe gold and cotton, while exporting pharmaceuticals and machinery. For Traoré, India is a key partner, offering a development model based on shared experience, not colonial baggage. The connection between Cuba and Burkina Faso is personal. It's rooted in history and ideology, going back to the days of Thomas Sankara. Today, that bond is being re-energized. Cooperation is strongest where Cuba excels despite its own struggles. Healthcare. Cuban medical brigades have been on the ground in Burkina Faso for decades. Recent talks have focused on deepening this collaboration. The Cuban ambassador has praised Traoré for his support against the US economic blockade of Cuba. For Ouagadougou, Havana is a symbol of resilience, proof that a small nation can stand up to a superpower. The partnership with Bangladesh is one of the most surprising and brilliant examples of this new diplomacy. On the surface, they have little in common, but look closer, and you'll see a perfect economic match. Bangladesh has one of the world's largest textile industries and needs a massive, steady supply of raw cotton. Burkina Faso is one of Africa's top producers of high-quality cotton. A direct trade deal that cuts out Western middlemen is a pure win-win, allowing both nations to create wealth together. And then there's Luxembourg. A wealthy EU and NATO member seems like an odd fit for Traoré's government. Yet, Luxembourg has been a quiet and consistent partner for decades. Its relationship, which started in the 90s, has always been focused on development aid, delivered without political pressure. While other Western nations pulled back after the coup, Luxembourg stayed, keeping its aid programs and its trust-based relationship alive. This makes Luxembourg unique. It's a quiet bridge between two worlds. For the EU, it keeps a line of communication open. For Traoré, it proves he's not anti-West, he's anti-domination. He'll partner with anyone, as long as it's based on respect. So, what does all this mean? Why are all these different countries cozying up to a government that the West tried to ice out? The answer is simple. We're watching a new global order being built in real time. What's happening in Ouagadougou is a preview of a larger shift away from a world run by one set of rules to a multipolar reality, where everything is more fluid and countries have choices. For decades, the playbook was set. A country like Burkina Faso was supposed to stay in its lane, influenced by its former colonizer and Western allies. Aid, trade, and security all came with strings attached. Step out of line, and you'd be cut off. Traore, along with his neighbors in Mali and Niger, just tore up that playbook. By forming their own bloc, the Alliance of Sahel States, AEAs, they've created a new center of gravity and are demanding strategic autonomy. This has kicked off an era of unapologetic pragmatism. The nations now engaging with Burkina Faso aren't doing it because they love military juntas. They're chasing their own national interests. Russia wants to challenge the West. Turkey wants to be a global player. China wants resources and markets. This is pure geopolitics. But don't get it twisted. This isn't a new scramble for Africa. Leaders like Ibrahim Traoré are making calculated choices. They're using the growing competition between world powers to their own advantage, diversifying their partnerships so they're not dependent on anyone. They're sending a clear message to the world. We'll work with you, but it will be on our terms, with respect for our sovereignty, and for the benefit of our people. It's a fundamental power shift. African nations aren't just taking the rules anymore. They're starting to make them. So there you have it. The public story of Ibrahim Traoré's isolation is just that, a story. Behind the curtain, a new reality is being built with pragmatic handshakes and strategic deals. Global powers, old and new, are lining up to engage, all recognizing one fundamental truth: Burkina Faso, and Africa as a whole, is no longer playing by the old rules. The partnerships with Russia, Turkey, and China offer powerful alternatives. The growing coalition with nations from the global south like India and Cuba signals a new kind of solidarity. And even the quiet diplomacy of a country like Luxembourg shows that respect can be a more powerful tool than pressure. We are witnessing a change in the very nature of power. A move toward a world where African nations have options, where they can choose their partners, and where sovereignty is a reality to be defended. This is the dawn of a new, complex, and unapologetically multipolar world, being forged not in Washington or Brussels, but in capitals like Ouagadougou. What do you think? Is this new brand of pragmatic diplomacy the future for African nations seeking real independence? Or does it just create new dependencies? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you want to support journalism that tells the real stories from the continent, be sure to like this video, share it, and subscribe to the channel. Your support lets us keep bringing you these vital perspectives.